Well, it's been a huge couple of weeks for Reform UK. We are in the news all the time. In some opinion polls, we're now above Labour, in others, above the Conservatives. What's for certain is we now have three parties polling somewhere in the 20s, and we're the ones on the up. Now look, you'd have read about Elon Musk, and is he going to give us a load of money? And then yesterday, Nick Candy, the big property developer, known by some as Holly Valence's husband, a bit unfair, but it's true. Nick joined us yesterday as our treasurer, and we're going to raise money. Some people say, well, you know what? If the big money guys are coming in, I don't need to do anything. Let me tell you this. If we are going to build a people's army that beat the establishment, that give us in a few years' time the kind of government we need to turn round the decline.
Don't let this moment pass you by, as what we're about to discuss could forever alter the political landscape of the UK. This morning, Westminster is in genuine turmoil, and it's more than just talk. Nigel Farage, leader of the UK Reform Party and one of the most polarising figures in British politics, has launched a fierce attack on Prime Minister Keir Starmer. His allegations are not merely being voiced, they are igniting intense debates that could challenge the very core of our democracy. Farage asserts that this government is betraying our democratic principles. The Labour Party has stunned everyone by announcing a postponement of the local elections originally set for May 25. But this isn't just a simple delay. We could be looking at a potential postponement until 2026 or even 2027. This could deal a significant blow to the democratic foundations of our nation.
Right, now listen, the political landscape in Britain is undergoing a seismic, perhaps historic shift, with Nigel Farage and Reform UK emerging as a formidable political force that's now reshaping the traditional two-party system. Recent polling data, some bombshell polls that I'll share with you in a second, and high-profile developments within Reform suggest that we are now witnessing a pivotal, transformative moment in British politics. Now, Reform UK's rise in recent polls is nothing short of remarkable. According to the very latest poll by Find Out Now, a very reliable, rigorous pollster, Reform is now polling at 25% with support from 1 in 4 voters, placing them in a tight race with Labour, who are first on 26%, and ahead of the Tories, with Kemi Badenoch failing to impress so far on just 23% of the vote.
Farage then launched a furious attack on Keir Starmer, accusing him of adopting political tactics from the US Democrats. He argues that the Labour Party is manipulating the system, disguising its actions as reforms. His tone was confrontational, and his outspoken accusations resonate deeply with many voters who feel increasingly marginalized by mainstream politics. Farage is not merely venting his frustration, he is galvanizing his supporters, framing this moment as pivotal for Britain. However, his impassioned rhetoric raises a critical question: is he correct? And what stance is the Labour Party taking in this tumultuous situation? Local Government Minister Jim McMahon clarified the decision, explaining that the election delay is due to a significant restructuring of local councils. Major administrative changes are underway in areas like Essex, Kent, and Sussex, with some councils merging, others being dissolved, and boundaries being redrawn.
We're talking about a possible postponement until 2026 or even 2027. Before we unravel the implications of this political bombshell, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. Here, we break down the latest news, provide sharp analysis, and dig deep into stories that matter.
Well, it's been a huge couple of weeks for Reform UK. We are in the news all the time. In some opinion polls, we're now above Labour, in others, above the Conservatives. What's for certain is we now have three parties polling somewhere in the 20s, and we're the ones on the up. Now look, you'd have read about Elon Musk, and is he going to give us a load of money?
Postponing elections in a democracy is a big deal. These are the moments when the public gets to speak, to hold their leaders accountable. But what happens when those moments are delayed? Labour says it's a necessary step to fix local council structures. Nigel Farage says it's nothing.
The postponement of elections in a democratic society is not merely an event, it is a significant upheaval. These are crucial moments when citizens can vocally express their desires and hold their leaders accountable. But what occurs when such pivotal moments are delayed? The Labour Party argues that this is a necessary measure to reform local councils. But does that reasoning hold water? Nigel Farage, on the other hand, labels it nothing short of a power grab. And what are the public's thoughts? They are left to ponder whom they can trust in this perplexing situation. Farage is renowned for his eloquence and his ability to rally disillusioned voters, but even by his standards, His response to this announcement was explosive. In a statement that has already gone viral, he accused the Labour Party of acting like a third-world dictatorship. This is not merely a postponement of elections, it is a desperate bid to cling to power at any cost. The Labour Party is acutely aware that they are losing the trust of the British public, and instead of confronting this reality, they are altering the rules as if they own the game. Farage did not stop there. He compared the Labour Party's actions to the tactics employed by authoritarian regimes worldwide. In his view, the government is using democracy as a facade while secretly eroding its foundations, undermining what should be sacred to every citizen.
Now, this represents a significant surge from the 14% share that Reform polled at the 2024 general election only 5 months ago. What does it mean? Well, if those numbers were replicated at a general election, Reform would go from only 5 seats in the House of Commons today to closer to around 100 seats in Parliament. So this could be a complete game changer. Now, Nigel Farage, the charismatic leader of Reform UK, has emphasised the party's momentum in a recent letter to Reform supporters. He has said, "We're making headlines daily, and in some polls we're now ahead of Labour. In others, we're ahead of the Conservatives. What's clear is that 3 parties are polling in the 20s, and we're the one on the rise." And Farage is not wrong. What we are seeing, what we are witnessing at the moment, is a traditional 2-party system morphing into a multi-party system with Labour, the Conservatives and Reform now.
The Labour Party contends that conducting elections in an environment where changes have yet to be finalised would result in chaos and confusion. McMahon asserts that these reforms are essential for modernising local government. In a recent interview, he confidently stated that the goal is to make councils more effective and better equipped to serve their communities. While this explanation may initially seem reasonable, critics quickly raise concerns. Essex, Kent, and Sussex are crucial regions for Labour, where there has been a significant surge in support for other opposition parties. For Farage and his supporters, this appears less like reform and more like a strategic ploy that gives the Labour Party extra time to regroup in areas where they risk losing ground. Meanwhile, voters in these regions are left without the right to vote, forced to navigate the situation on their own. Farage vehemently dismissed the Labour Party's justifications as meaningless, highlighting the intensity of emotions in this battle for the country's future.
That Reform UK's support has increased sharply over the last few months, rising from under 20% to 25% of the vote here in December 2024. And look into the detail too. Reform is now leading the Conservatives among everybody under the age of 65. They're more popular than the Conservatives among men, and they are taking about 1 in 5 people who voted for the Conservatives back at the general election in July. So it is clear that Nigel Farage's party, only 5 months on from that general election, is already morphing into a mainstream, serious political force. The current political landscape in Britain has evolved into a 3-way contest, with Labour, the Tories and Reform now all polling relatively similar shares of the vote. This marks a significant departure from the traditional 2-party system that has dominated British politics for decades. Farage's appeal for membership, which is priced at £25 a year, which he compares to the cost of a packet of cigarettes or a round of...
Opposition leaders from across the political spectrum are sounding the alarm, warning that this delay sets a perilous precedent that could lead to disaster. At the heart of this contradiction lies a more significant issue: trust. Elections are the cornerstone of democracy, sacred moments when citizens can hold their leaders accountable. Postponing elections, even for technical reasons, can erode public confidence in the system, and this is not just rhetoric. Public opinion polls already indicate that trust in the government has plummeted to an all-time low. Years of political strife, scandals, and economic challenges have left voters feeling deeply disillusioned and dissatisfied. Recent disputes may further exacerbate this divide, which is genuinely concerning. Critics argue that delaying the election sends a dangerous message. It suggests to voters that their votes can be postponed and their choices disregarded. In a democracy, this is an extremely risky move that could have unpredictable repercussions. However, the Labour Party maintains that this is about responsible governance. They argue that rushing to hold elections without completing council reforms will create more problems than it solves. For them, this is a matter of stability and efficiency, not politics. Yet the timing of such statements is highly unfortunate. The Labour Party is grappling with a crisis of trust, facing accusations of authoritarianism, and public confidence is at a historic low. What are your thoughts on this video? Share your opinions in the comments and see you later.